I was getting very tired of going to funerals. By the time I turned 80, most of my friends had sadly already passed away, and my wife had already passed away 10 years before that. I was always somebody who was fit and active, and I'm lucky, or cursed, depending which way you want to look at it, that I still have the ability to do things, even though I'm getting on in years. I sacrificed any sort of immediate pleasure for most of my life, so you could say that I'm either paying the price today with loneliness, or I'm living longer than everybody else. There are two ways to look at everything. I already had a son in his 50s who had a family and kids, and I was a granddad, and part of me was just waiting for something to do. I can remember my 80th birthday. I was at my closest friend's funeral, and that made me think that if I don't do something soon, I'm not going to do anything at all. And I started thinking about doing some travelling, like my wife always wanted to do more of, but we never did. Looking at people around me who were younger than me, yet who struggled to walk and who had health issues, and then there I was, as fit as a fiddle, it felt almost offensive that I wasn't going to take advantage of the fact that God had given me this health and I wasn't using it to the max. It wasn't like I was without money. It wasn't like I needed to be anywhere or do anything. What I needed to do was step out of my shell and enjoy whatever years I had left. I'm even older now. I don't feel like it, and while age does seem to be catching up with me, I still don't feel like I need to slow down. But I had to go through something that I wouldn't wish on my worst enemy. I always thought that life is for living, but there are so many different ways that you can live. I never drank alcohol, I never smoked cigarettes, and I always ate healthy food, and I never made an exception. My friends used to say that I wasn't living because I wasn't enjoying myself when it came to things like that, and looking back, I can sort of understand what they meant. I would be the one who didn't drink while they were. They all seemed to be having such a good time, yet I've outlived all of them, and I'm starting to ask the question, did I even live at all, or was I just trying to extend my stay in the world, even if it meant sacrificing immediate pleasures? Life has been good to me, but it has always been very cruel to me as well, and I don't think that I deserved what happened to me. I deserved better than that. At least I like to think so. There is one thing that I would like to say, and that is that I don't envy the younger generation. I really don't envy the younger generations, and I can't stress that enough. Because when I got married originally to my first wife, she was the love of my life. She still is the love of my life, and she will always be the love of my life. But back then, it was so much better than things are today. We were both 20 when we met. Both never had had even one relationship before that one, and we got married before anything else happened, and that's how it should be. There was never any jealousy or any disappointment or any excuses to be able to throw at each other. There were just two people who found each other at the right time and who hadn't done anything before to make this anything less special than it was. I wish I was still together with her now, and although she tried to be as healthy as me, it doesn't work for everyone. And when she passed away, there was a point when I had got to even consider if I wanted to continue. I got through it as best as I could. I had a good friend who helped me through that difficult time, but that marriage was everything like I would have wanted my son's marriage to be. His marriage is still going strong, but it wasn't cut from the same cloth as my marriage. He was married at 25, his wife was 24, but they didn't meet each other like I met my wife. I understand that the world changes and things change, but I still struggle to come to terms with the fact that my grandson, who is the most important thing in the world for me at the moment, will grow up without being able to get into the kind of relationship that I had with my wife. That really upsets me. And I think that's one of the reasons why so many people are currently leaving England, why the country is falling faster and faster every year. It's because the modern family isn't the same as it was. It's not the same as what an actual family should be like. But I guess I'm just an old man rabbiting on. I've watched my country go from the depths of disaster and turn into a modern country where everyone seemed to be able to succeed, then make an exact U-turn towards the kind of society that we had already moved away from. It's been very difficult to watch, but I suppose it is just how it is, and I can't do anything about it. It was that good friend who helped me through the passing of my wife, whose funeral I was at on my 80th birthday, when I decided that I needed to have a change and do something with my life. He passed away when he was 75, and one thing he always used to talk about were the times he spent in Thailand, which he always described as his favourite place in the world. He never went to go and live out there. He just spent 3 months a year there, and he always tried to get me to go with him, but I'd always refused. I regret not taking that opportunity, because it would have been good to have witnessed it with him. It would have been good for him to show me the part of him that I knew nothing about, and I regret not taking that opportunity when it was offered to me. I suppose it was a way for me to pay my respects to him by going to Thailand, almost as if I was taking him with me, because he would have been with me in my mind when I got there. He'd been single ever since he was 50. He always used to say that I was the lucky one because me and my wife stayed together through thick and thin. But his wife had had enough of him, and he never bothered to find anybody else. He never bothered to remarry because he wanted to stay single. He used to say that Thailand was the place where he went so that he didn't need to get married again. And Thailand opened his eyes to the reality of the world and just how fun things can be if you step out of your comfort zone. It was only a week after his funeral, but I'd already booked the tickets to go to Thailand for 2 weeks. I don't want you to picture some frail old man who was 80 years old, hunched over, barely able to walk. Most people who saw me said I looked 20 years younger than I actually was. Maybe it was because I spent at least 1 or 2 hours per day walking all my life. I don't know what it was, but I didn't look 80. I didn't feel 80. But perhaps I still had the mentality of someone who grew up at a very different time, but who saw things in Thailand to be similar to that, yet so different to that I didn't even know such a difference existed. Perhaps that's what you could say. I got the train to the airport, and I can't remember a time when I was as excited at the thought of doing something like that. My wife had always been the one who wanted to travel, and we did go on holiday sometimes, including a few cruises and time spent in America, which was one of our favourite places to go. We did a road trip from the East Coast all the way to the West Coast, and it was one of my most fond memories that I had together with my wife. The thing that stuck out to me the most was this little restaurant somewhere in the middle of the country. I can't even remember which state it was in, and that was run by a man who at the time was in his 80s and still going strong. It sticks out to me because that was sort of who I became, or it felt like that anyway. At the airport, I checked into the flight, and I'm actually shaking, not out of fear, but out of anticipation and excitement. I'd never been so far east before, and I had no idea what to expect. Waiting for the plane, you're always full of mixed emotions, at least I was, when you're flying such a long way. One part is dreading the fact that you're going to be sitting in such discomfort, but on the other hand, the thoughts of getting there and what it's actually going to be like. That was exciting. When they called us to board, I just queued with everybody else, but I guess I must have looked old because the check-in agents tried to wave me across, people who needed help first. But I didn't need any help. Well, I appreciated the fact that they were trying to help me because I'm old, but I thought they should reserve that for people who actually needed it because I didn't. I was flying on Thai Airways, and as soon as I got on the plane, I was welcomed by the air hostesses, and my mind was racing after thinking about all the stories that my friend had told me about what he got up to in Thailand. They made the flight very memorable. It was a very good welcome to Thailand before I even arrived, and I think that's probably what their intention was. So friendly people, so kind and so attentive. It really does make you understand that customer service and doing a good job is something that they take very seriously in Thailand. And that was a breath of fresh air, which goes against the people doing similar jobs at home, who you can tell are doing it because they don't have anything else to do, as if they don't have a choice and they're doing it out of force. My arrival to Thailand was exactly what I needed. I was so upbeat when I got off the plane and walked through this really modern airport. Luckily, I managed to sleep on the plane, so I wasn't tired, and I was just making every single second count because this was something very different for someone of my age. Immigration was a breeze. My bag was already waiting for me on the conveyor belt, and I made my way through customs where they didn't even check anything, and then I found myself in Thailand. I had the name of my hotel written down. I printed off everything at home before I left, and I saw a stand in the middle of the airport where they offered airport limousines, so I booked one from there to take me to my hotel. I know some people will say I should have got the public taxi. I found that out later, but I just wanted to get there, and the extra little bit of money it cost for this limousine was so marginal it didn't really affect me. It was a very nice car as well. The driver even wore a hat, like a black top hat, and we set off, and the only thing telling me that I was 80 was my passport with the date of birth on it. I didn't feel 80. I didn't even feel like I felt when I was 60. I felt younger than that, and I didn't feel like I was too old to be doing what I was doing. You're never too old to enjoy yourself, but enjoying yourself and other things might be a little bit different. I was staying in the Shangri-La Hotel close to the riverside. It was quite close to the Chinatown area as well, and I would find out that the closest BTS station to there was only a short walk, which was Sapan Taksin. The hotel wasn't cheap by any stretch of the imagination. It was about £200 a night, I think, but the view was incredible, and the staff were even more incredible than that. As soon as I got out of the taxi, they rushed across, smiles on their faces, to take my bags and help me into the hotel. Not that I needed any help, but they're so attentive over there in Asia, it makes you wonder if the word customer service even exists at home, because I'm starting to think it doesn't. I checked into my hotel. I had a guy help me with the bags to my room where I gave him a tip. I didn't have any Thai money at that point, so I gave him £5, telling him to change it himself. I closed the door, opened the curtains, and looked at the spectacular view of the river below me. This was living. This is what I'd been missing ever since my wife passed away. I could have been doing this for years, and I should have gone with my friend. I was there now, though, and I was going to make the most of every single second, because this was something I needed. It was only about 3 p.m. when I arrived, and I wasn't feeling even remotely tired. But then the question was, what do I do now? I was going to be in Bangkok for a week, and after that I had a hotel booked in Pattaya, which was the place my friend said he liked the most. I knew that Thailand was famous for its nightlife. It was also famous for its food, the culture, and the temples, and I wanted to do it all. I walked downstairs to the reception and asked if they could help me arrange a tour for the next day. I wanted to go to the Grand Palace and Wat Arun because I'd heard those were some of the main places you see, and I also wanted to go on a river cruise and have a meal on that the following evening. They very kindly helped me to get all that arranged, and I was due to be picked up from the hotel at 9 a.m. the following morning, and that felt good that I had my first excursion planned. For the rest of the day, I just hung around in the hotel, had a nice meal in the hotel restaurant, had a swim in the pool there, and I had an early night to make sure that I was fresh in the morning. The following morning, I went on the tour I'd planned and had an amazing time. It was so much better than I'd expected it to be. I saw those places, imagined what they must have been like a long time ago, which was something that always fascinated me. And I had that meal on the river cruise in the evening. By the end of the day, I was worn out. I'd done so much in that heat, but I was feeling like perhaps my life from now on should be travelling. There's no point sitting around at home feeling sorry for myself and not doing anything when the whole world is out there to explore. The next day, I had no plans, but I thought I would go and have a look at the famous nightlife that Thailand was known for, and I asked the hotel reception how to get there. They gave me a bit of a look as if to say, "You're 80 years old, are you sure?" But I wanted to see it. So they arranged a taxi to get me to a place called Soy Cowboy. When I got there that evening, that's when my whole world completely changed. I think I'd been too guarded or too protected for my entire life, because what I saw when I was there made me feel alive again in a way like I'd never felt. To say it changed something inside me would be a huge understatement. It didn't only change something inside me, it changed my whole world view, and it changed everything that I wanted to do in my life moving forwards. If I'd have known that that was only one of many places available, and Pattaya, where my friend said was his favourite place, would be even more than this, I may have died right there and then of overexcitement. But I just want to say that that was one of the best nights I'd had ever since my wife passed away. Thailand owned me then. That's the only way to say it. As someone who never drank alcohol his whole life, I wasn't about to start now, but I was good with either a Diet Coke or a water. I wasn't tempted to try alcohol because I never felt like I needed it. That evening, I walked into one bar just to see what it was like, and I did order myself a Diet Coke. And before I knew it, there was a girl sitting next to me, talking to me and asking lots of questions. She asked for a drink, which I agreed to buy for her. She had some Thai whiskey thing with water in it and asked me why I wasn't drinking alcohol. I just told her I've never drunk alcohol in my life, and I'm not about to start now. But she still cheersed me in the same way, even if I was. She asked how old I was, and I told her to guess, and she said 58. When I told her I was 80, she didn't believe me, and that made me feel good because I felt younger than I was, and I really did look younger than I was. I didn't spend long in that bar. I went to a few different places that evening and had the time of my life. I didn't get any further than the bars and speaking to a girl in each bar, but the fact that things were available and I was an equal to everybody else there, that is what made the whole thing even more exciting. For the rest of my time in Bangkok, I went back to Soy Cowboy twice, and I also went to a few other places that were close by. During that week, I was starting to think about packing up and moving to Thailand permanently. There seemed to be lots of guys there who were in a similar position to me. They seemed to be having a good time. And when I found out that you could go there and live there and get a retirement visa by putting less than £20,000 in the bank, that made me think that I should go there because it was a really tempting idea. I could afford it, so what would be the reason for me to not enjoy my latter years? That week went by way too fast, and when it was time to leave, I asked my hotel to help me get a taxi to Pattaya and to my hotel there. And 5 minutes after checking out, the taxi was waiting outside. I jumped in the back and we set off. I was about to experience something even better than I had experienced in Bangkok. But when I was leaving Bangkok, I was initially a little bit worried because I didn't think something could beat it. But that's how Thailand can deceive you. The taxi ride to Pattaya was very exciting. Seeing a lot of Thailand out of the window was a great experience. And we stopped for a short break at that small service station on the highway. If you know, you know. They have all those Western fast food chains there, as well as shops selling Thai goodies, and it seemed to be the place that everyone stopped off at when they were doing that journey. It can't have been an hour later when we were already pulling into Pattaya, and the taxi driver drove me to my hotel, which was on Beach Road. I booked into the Amari Hotel because it seemed to be in a very good location, and the staff that worked there, they were equally as friendly as the staff were at the hotel in Bangkok. I had a whole week to enjoy Pattaya, and I was so looking forward to seeing what it was going to be like compared to Bangkok. I was already loving the nightlife in Thailand. The reputation that Thailand had was definitely well earned, and I couldn't shift the thought of my friend telling me how good Pattaya was compared to Bangkok. That thought was stuck in my mind and I couldn't remove it. I got there quite early. It probably wasn't even noon when I arrived, so I just hung out in the hotel for a bit and waited for 6 p.m. to come around to make sure I wasn't tired, and to make sure that I could have the best night possible. My room in the hotel had a great view of the sea. It didn't look very much like a place you would want to swim in the sea. Pattaya wasn't exactly known for that, but the fact that it was there It just had a different element to it than Bangkok had. I left my hotel at 6, and with the beach in front of you, I turned left and walked along Beach Road. I was just about getting used to walking in the heat of Thailand. I walked every single day at home, and it was one of the things that I thanked for keeping me fit all these years. But walking in Thailand was a different kettle of fish, although I could still handle it as long as I had a lot of water to drink. Before I even had a chance to make it to the nightlife area, I noticed a little restaurant that looked really good, so I thought I would go in and have something to eat. I hadn't got used to the Thai food yet, but you didn't need to eat Thai food. They had everything you wanted. So I finished up with the meal, continued walking, and it was only about 200 meters later, I guess, when I noticed a wall of bright lights down one street. It reminded me of Soy Cowboy, so I turned and walked into the first bar that I saw. My life would change again that night. That street was Soy 6, and that bar was just like any of the bars I went to in Bangkok. Only this time, the girl that started talking to me actually seemed to really like me. She was 22 years old, and I know what you're thinking, but you shouldn't think that, because she was the one who was interested in me. Up until that night, I'd spoken to girls, just having conversations and being in a place where I could feel young and alive again. But this girl seemed to be really interested in getting to know me even more, and she said if I wanted to go somewhere with her for something to eat, she would like to go with me. I'd already just eaten, but it seemed like it was a good opportunity to see what she had in mind, so I pretended I hadn't, and I said if you want to go somewhere to eat, I'll happily take you. You can choose. So she goes into the back, gets her things, and 2 minutes later she said, "Let's go then." I paid the bill, which included money for the bar, and she grabbed my hand and walked towards Beach Road. We turned left, so I was walking further away from my hotel, and before long, we came to what looked like a Thai-style seafood sort of restaurant right on the front. She said the food was nice there if I wanted to eat there, and I just told her it was her choice. So we walked in and sat at a table outside. They didn't have any air-conditioned rooms there, so she ordered a selection of Thai foods and a beer for herself, and I just had a glass of water. She thought it was really funny that I didn't drink alcohol, and perhaps she was already a little bit drunk, but she seemed to look at me like she really wanted to get to know me and spend more time with me. That's what it felt like. She just kept saying that she always wished she could have met someone who respected her and loved her and who could look after her, and she's saying this to me on the first night that I've seen her. So I start to think that she's just been very unlucky with the people that she's met before. All the food arrives, and there was a lot of it, and I picked at bits of it, trying not to come across as someone who didn't really enjoy that sort of food. She's just eating like mad, and then she said, "Where's your hotel?" I told her where it was and where I was staying, and she said that she knew where it was. I asked her where she lived, and she just said she had a small room not too far away that she shared with 2 other girls that worked in the bar. I found out a lot about her while she was eating. She must have been eating for nearly an hour. She was from Udon Thani. She had a 3-year-old son, and her son was being looked after by her parents, and she sent money to help support them. I didn't know that was just a typical tale, but it really does seem to be if I know now. When the food was finished, I paid the bill, and we walked back to Beach Road, and she said to me, "Can I look at your hotel?" What was I meant to say? If someone says that to you, what are you meant to say? Perhaps there are other things at play as well in terms of financial support, but I felt like she really liked me, and I didn't want to disappoint. So I showed her where the hotel was, and what the room looked like. She spent the rest of my holiday with me, only 7 days in Pattaya before I was due to go back home, and the thoughts of going back home was awful to think about. I knew I needed to be with her, and at the end of those 7 days I had already decided that I was going to move back to Thailand as quickly as possible, because I wanted nothing more than to be with her. She made me the best version of myself when I was with her. She made me feel younger, and she made me feel wanted and needed, something I hadn't felt for such a long time. I felt like I'd already fallen in love with her, after I'd only known her for a few days. And after that, the only thing I could think about was getting married and settling down to live a retired life with my new wife. She was very affectionate and very loving and kind, and she just acted exactly like any girlfriend would act. I know people would say that the age difference was extreme, but she was the one that started talking to me. She was the one that asked if I wanted to go and eat with her, and she was the one that asked if I wanted to spend more time with her. And I said yes to everything. What I'm trying to say is that I feel like she initiated the whole thing. Therefore, because she did that, it felt like it had to be real, because I didn't see somebody as beautiful and as sweet and kind as her doing something so calculated and cruel. I didn't want her to go and work back in the bar again after I left, because it was my plan to return soon. So I agreed if I gave her some money, she would avoid going to the bar and wait for me to come back. I gave her about £3,000, which I thought was a fair amount, because I expected to be gone for 1 or 2 months, and she was very happy when I gave that to her, saying that she would wait for me, and she said that she couldn't wait to live with me. She couldn't wait to move in with me and be with me, and she just wanted me to come back. She was telling me everything that I would have wanted to have heard, and I didn't think that she was doing that for any other reason than she wanted to be with me. Of course, there was the financial support that she would get as well. But everybody supports their wives, don't they? Or their girlfriends. So I didn't see any difference there. It was very difficult having to leave, though. She even cried when I got in the taxi to the airport, and she said she couldn't wait for me to get back. I couldn't wait to get back either. I didn't know exactly how to make it work, but I knew that I could pretty much do what I wanted when I wanted, so I thought I would be back soon. I just wanted to leave in a good way as opposed to just not going back. Back in England and back in my house, the house that I lived in for 60 years, I sat there the first morning thinking that I didn't really have anything to be there for. My son was already in his 50s, living his own life with his own family, and I only saw him once every few weeks at best. Aside from that, most of my friends had already died, so it seemed only right just to go to Thailand as soon as I could. I was speaking to her every day. She showed me the new place that she'd rented with the money I gave her. That would be where we would live together when I got back. The place itself, it really did look like it was a good place. I asked my son to come up to my place the next weekend because I wanted to talk about something. And he said, "Is everything okay?" Like he was a bit worried about something. And I told him it's fine, it's nothing to worry about like that. I spent the next few days just thinking about her and Thailand and nothing else. And when my son came to visit and I told him I was moving permanently to Thailand, he looked at me like, "Are you sure that's the best idea?" But also like, "You need to do something and you need to have a good time, so go for it, but just don't do anything stupid." I didn't tell him that I had a girlfriend that was waiting for me. I didn't mention anything that he could use against me. I just said to him, I don't have anything to do here anymore. I still missed my wife so much. Even today, I really miss my wife. And I didn't have any friends to go and see anymore because they were all dead. So I thought this could be the time to do something so very different. When he left that evening, he just wished me good luck. And when he went, I looked into what I would need to get that proper visa to live there. I found out it was easy just to get the retirement visa in the country, according to something I read online. So I felt that all I needed to do was book a ticket and go. And I did. I booked a ticket for a week's time, and I told my girlfriend that I was coming back in a week, and she seemed very happy. She said she couldn't wait to see me again, and she'd been missing me. I'd been missing her as well so much, and over the next week, I just packed everything up at my house because I planned to leave and not come back for a number of years, so I didn't want anything gathering dust, and I locked up the house and left it. All the bills were already connected to direct debit, so I could just leave the house indefinitely. Perhaps my son could go and check on it from time to time, but I didn't really want everybody else living there, and I didn't need the income from it, so it could just stay there. I had my pension, which was about £3,500 a month, And I also had a couple of £100,000 in cash. And based on what I spent when I was in Thailand, it felt like my income alone would be enough to give me the best retirement anybody could dream of. I'd already been retired for 20 years, but my retirement was going downhill all the time. This was going to be my real retirement, as I liked to call it. And I left. I flew back to Thailand and went straight to Pattaya to start my new life. As soon as I got to Pattaya, I had a rush of adrenaline come over me because I knew that this was where my life was going to change dramatically. My life had already changed ever since I visited Thailand, but now I was living there and I was just about to meet up with my girlfriend. Because she'd already rented the place we were going to live in, I had to hand the phone to the taxi driver so she could tell him where it was. And he dropped me off there with all my bags next to this very high condominium building in a very central location in Pattaya. She was already waiting downstairs for me, and she came over and jumped on me and hugged me, and she really did seem to be happy that I was back. I felt in that moment like I'd made the right decision. I might have been a lot older than her, but I felt like we were soulmates, and she helped me take my bags up to the room, which was on a very high floor, and I marvelled at just how modern the condo was that she had rented. It was a big 2-bedroom place, so it wasn't cheap, but I didn't need to scrimp and save, and I wanted to have the best life possible in Thailand. I arrived quite early in the morning, so she was just getting ready after waking up, and she said she thinks it's a good idea if we go to buy some things for the condo so we can make it our own. I looked around, and it already seemed to be fully furnished, but she was talking about items that weren't there, saying we should go probably and buy them so we could get it out of the way, and I agreed to go to get everything she talked about. We went first to a supermarket called Big C and bought things such as a kettle, a rice cooker which she wanted, and an ironing board with an iron. She wanted a hairdryer, and we bought a lot more than that. I probably spent about £1,000 just in Big C getting those things for the condo, but they did seem like they were necessary items and I was happy to get them. When we were walking out of Big C, about to look for a taxi, she turned to me and said, would it be okay if we drop these off at the condo and then we go and get some things for me in Terminal 21? Terminal 21 is a big mall which is on 2nd Road in Pattaya, and I'd never been there before, but I wanted to make sure she was happy, so I agreed. We got a taxi back to the hotel with the things we bought for the condo, took them up to the room, and didn't unpack anything, and we were already back out getting another taxi to Terminal 21. I didn't know what she had in mind. I thought maybe she wanted things that would cost £100 or £200 at the most, but I ended up getting her a brand new iPhone, a brand new designer bag, a few pairs of shoes and some makeup that she had her eye on. All in all, I probably spent £2,500 for everything in Terminal 21, and right there and then I'd spent my whole pension over the course of a few hours. But I thought it was a one-off. I just got back, so it wasn't a problem. I was quite tired though after the flight, so after that we went back to the condo and she stayed there with me all day and I just relaxed. I didn't feel like I needed to rush anything, and I was just so happy to be back. The next week goes by without incident. I had agreed to give her an allowance of £500 a month, which I thought was a fair amount, given the fact that she would just be spending all her time with me and she wouldn't need to work anymore. We'd spent that week going out to eat, did a lot of chatting and talking and getting to know each other even more than before. And I felt like I was getting closer to her with every single passing second. After that week, she commented on the fact that every time we went somewhere, we needed to get a taxi. This was Grab, by the way, that we used to go to different places. And she kept saying that it would be a lot easier if we had our own transport. I had my car parked up in England in my garage, and I thought it would be a good idea to send that across to Thailand because it was a really nice car. I found out very quickly, though, that that wasn't going to happen. It was impossible. Number one, you can't import second-hand cars into Thailand. And number two, even if you could, the taxes would be so high it would be cheaper to buy a new car in the country. So unfortunately, I quickly had to put that idea to bed. I did find myself going with her to a few dealerships. We went to Honda and Toyota, as well as Ford, and I didn't feel like I was quite yet ready to purchase a car in Thailand. But I did say to her as soon as I get my retirement visa arranged to make sure all that's right and I can actually stay there, then we can go and look and probably get one. I expected things to take a few months for me to get my visa arranged, and she seemed to be happy with that agreement. She did say, would it be okay if I bought a motorcycle to start with, so she could use that in the meantime, because the one she had was not very good. I agreed to buy her a Honda Click, which cost just over £1,000, but I thought it was a good investment, so at least she could get around easily. I'm not thinking about money I'm spending as anything other than just buying things at the start of the relationship that we can use moving forwards. I'm not thinking this is going to be an ongoing thing, and after I bought the motorcycle, I didn't buy anything else for a while. I found an agent as soon as I arrived to help me with my visa, and after I'd been there for a few more weeks, I went to get the visa. I already had the bank account sorted out where I transferred the money in, and I was going to be able to extend it as long as the money sat there for a few months. Everything was looking so good, and I was really happy. When I got the retirement visa, that was when I asked her to marry me, because it only felt right for us to make things really official. She agreed, and she made me the happiest man in the whole world. After she'd agreed to marry me, that was the first time I heard about the Thai tradition where the man has to pay a dowry to the girl's family. It's known in Thailand as sinsot, and she told me that because I was much older than her, it would probably be about 1 million baht. I nearly had a heart attack, quite literally, when she said that, because that would be around £25,000, and I thought it would be a good idea to speak to the agent who helped me get my retirement visa. I just wanted to make sure that that was actually a real thing, or if she'd just made it up. They advised me that it was real and nothing to worry about, but the price can vary wildly depending on the family. So I thought it was fine just to agree, because if we got married, that would make everything even more real. I was still worried that I was living with her when I wasn't married to her, and I felt it would make me feel a lot more comfortable. She told me that we would need to go to her hometown to get married, because we would need to do it in her village, and I was a bit apprehensive to do that. I was just thinking about getting the paperwork done and that was it, but she wanted the whole thing. Everything was arranged with her family, and I sent them the money to pay for it. That was £5,000, and we were going to be going up in a few weeks' time to actually have the party. Part of me was thinking that this was really exciting and I can't wait to be married. But the other part of me was thinking, why can't we just get married in Pattaya? I didn't want to travel 12 hours north, but just seeing her so happy, like she's found her soulmate, that made me so happy as well. And, true to my word, after I got the retirement visa, we went to go and look for a car. She thought it would be a good idea to arrive at the wedding in a brand new car so that her family could see I was serious. We decided on a Honda Accord. That was about £35,000, but I paid for it in cash and I told her it was a wedding present. While I've been spending a lot of money since I've arrived, I don't think that is very much of a problem. I just feel like I'm setting up my life, and once we've got everything ready, then there won't be anything else. Of course, I'll still be giving my wife her monthly allowance, but life is going to be very good. It made sense, though, that we needed a car to be able to go to places. It made sense that we were getting married so I could feel comfortable. Everything made sense. But I didn't think anything wrong with buying it and putting it on her name. If I think back to that time about how much money I actually spent so quickly, there's the car, I'm just about to hand over £25,000 to her family, the £5,000 for the wedding, the motorcycle. I wouldn't need to spend much more, and the few £100,000 that I had in savings would have about halved. But again, I'm just thinking that these are one-offs that are setting our lives up for success. That's how she always said things as well. She always said, we're setting up our life. When the time came, I sat in the passenger seat of our new car and we drove up to her village in Udon Thani. About halfway along the drive, she turned to me at the same time of driving and said she thinks it would be a nice idea if I bought some gold for her mother and grandmother which would make them like me so much more. She said her mother was 43 years old and her grandmother was 68, and when she said that, that should have made me pause to think about what I was actually doing. But I think I was just so lost in the moment that I didn't think about what she had just said, like any sane person would have thought about it. She just said it would be nice if we took them some gold each, and I thought that sounded like it would be a nice thing to do. So when we got to Udon Thani, we stopped off at a gold shop, and I purchased a necklace and a bracelet for both her mother and grandmother. She was very thankful for that, saying they would be very happy, and then we had something to eat in one of the restaurants in Udon Thani before doing the last 30 minutes of the drive to get to her village out in the sticks. That was when Thailand changed dramatically. It went from being a modern, vibrant kind of country, turning into what I could only assume things were like in the Dark Ages. Although they had electricity and running water and internet even, everything else was very different, and the fact that I had to spend a night there, that was going to be an interesting experience. Meeting her family was fun. I'm not thinking anything about how old I am. I'm just thinking I'm in love with my girlfriend, and she's in love with me, and that's all that matters. And I gave the gold to her mother and to her grandmother, who gave me a really nice smile and seemed very appreciative of what I did. That was also when I gave them the money for the dowry. And when that was handed over, they started talking with her about the plans for the following day, which would be the actual ceremony. It was a very difficult night's sleep, but I managed to fall asleep eventually, and the following day we had the ceremony with the whole village. Nobody said anything negative to me. Everyone seemed happy and friendly and kind, and I felt like I joined the family. I was offered multiple shots of rice whiskey countless times, but my now wife had to tell people that I hadn't drunk alcohol once in my life, and I wasn't about to do that now, and I think people respected me for that. It felt so good to be married to her. I felt like I'd done the proper thing by making an honest woman out of her, and I thought her family were appreciative as well. We were just about to leave in the car, and her mother smiled at me, a really genuine smile, and she just pointed at a motorcycle parked up next to the house. She said something, but I didn't think to know what she said, so I turned to my wife, and my wife just laughed and said she asked if you can buy her a new one because this one's broken. Seriously? I asked her, and she said, oh, it's up to you. So I agreed to give the money to my wife, and she can send it to her when we got back. Back in Pattaya, I sent the money for the motorcycle, as promised, and then life just seemed to come together so well. My pension was giving us an amazing life, and she hadn't asked for anything for a few months, apart from her allowance, which I'd increased to £1,000 a month since we were married. I'm in love with her, I would have done anything for her, and I thought that she was in love with me as well, and would have done anything for me too. I'd already got my retirement extension arranged for a whole year, which meant I was good to just live there, and the place we were living in was great. I was just so happy. She seemed to be happy, and during those first 3 months we were just spending all our time together, which is everything that I wished it would be. I told my son that I got married, and I could hear his voice change when I told him, and then he asked how old she was. I told him she was 42, and even then he said 42's way too young for you, but he had a bit of a cheeky laugh which I could hear, because he wasn't too serious as long as I was going to be okay. He even said he was going to come out with his family for his next holiday, and I told him that was a great idea and I look forward to seeing him soon. After another 3 months of living a great life, she hasn't really asked for anything else. I didn't think everything that we had already was anything over and above what anyone living a normal life would have had anyway, so I didn't think too much about the fact that I'd probably spent half of my savings by this point. We went to go and visit her family again, and when we were there, that was when she started talking about building a house, as she put it, for the future. She said she had some land already that her family gave to her, and she took me to look at it, and it wasn't much of anything really. Just a rough piece of ground about a 5-minute walk away from her parents' house. It was surrounded on all sides by rice fields, but this land was a little bit higher up, so it was suitable for building. She said it would make her very happy if we had this house, but we wouldn't need to live there, but we could go there occasionally, and we'd have somewhere to stay when we went to visit. It just seemed to me like it would be a good idea. So without much thought, I agreed to spend about £50,000 to build this house. I would need to pay in installments, and it could be done when we were in Pattaya. And with that, we could come up every month or so to make sure everything was going smoothly. She was very happy when I told her I would help her to get it built, and her family also seemed to be happy that we were putting some roots down in the village. When we got back to Pattaya, I started sending money for the house, and over the course of the next 6 months or so, we went every single month, and it was coming together so well. And by the end of those 6 months, the house was already complete. A brand new house we had, and it was ready to move in. I thought that when it was built, that would be that. It was an empty shell, but that was okay. It was finished and it was ready. And when we went to look at it, when it was finished, she said that now we needed to go and buy furniture for it. I was running close to going through all my savings now, and I didn't tell her that I was nearly at the end of my savings, because after this, it didn't seem like there'd be anything else that she might want that could cause me to have to spend a large amount of money. So, with that, we went into Udon Thani and spent about £20,000 on furniture for the house. We spent a few weeks up there getting everything ready and set up, and it was a really nice house, but I had no ambitions to ever live there full time. I was too happy in Pattaya, and this could just be the place we came to stay at very occasionally. She was really happy though, and when we did go back to Pattaya, we just continued this amazing life that I had somehow found myself living. I didn't really care that I didn't have much savings left. My pension was more than enough to live on, and I didn't expect that there would be anything else that we would need to spend big chunks of money on. It was only approximately 3 months later, though, when my wife said it would be better if we had our own place in Pattaya, because she felt uncomfortable renting where we were, because she said there was a risk of them kicking us out at any time. That was the first time I actually had to tell her that I don't have any savings left, but I have my income coming in every month, which is £3,500. In terms of savings, though, I don't have any more money to be able to buy anything else. She didn't seem to mind. She just said, fine. If that's what it is, then maybe we can get a mortgage. Because you've got your pension coming in regularly, it will be just the same as paying rent anyway. And I understood what she said. I told her I would think about it. The next week was the first time she actually went out at night by herself, twice. She just said it was a friend's birthday on one occasion, and then she was invited after that birthday to go somewhere else. And I thought that I needed to give her a bit of space, so I went along with it. I didn't notice that her behaviour changed almost overnight when she found out that I didn't have any savings left. But also, if she was thinking about getting a mortgage on a place in Pattaya, she should think that I would be the one who would need to pay for that. So again, I didn't really notice that slight change to her behaviour. She kept talking about getting a condo though, and she wanted one, with a mortgage. And I actually didn't see any harm in doing that, because just as she said, it would be the same as paying rent anyway. I was paying £1,000 a month for the renting the place we were in, £1,000 to her, and I had £1,500 left over, which was still a decent amount of money. We went around to look at condos, and there was one that she said she liked a lot, which was 10 million baht. I could have afforded the mortgage, and we put in the application based on my pension, yet in her name. She was really excited to think about having this place, and I was okay with it because the payment would have been about the same as the rental payment. But she was rejected for the mortgage. We tried again on a place that was half the price, and she was still rejected, even though I was going to be using my income. She had no credit history whatsoever, and we quickly found out that we weren't going to be able to get our own place in Pattaya. In less than a year, I'd spent about £200,000. I was happy, I was content, and I thought I would be with my wife for the rest of my life. But as soon as she was declined for the mortgage, it was as if she changed altogether. She started going out a lot more, this time every single day for a whole week, and I didn't pick up on this change straight away because I didn't think people would actually be like that. Some people might think that I'm being naive to the world, and I guess I was extremely naive because I thought we were married, and because of that, she would stay with me through the good times and also the bad times. But as soon as we were turned down on that mortgage, that was when she realised that there was no more big chunks of money coming. Even the £1,000 a month allowance I was giving her didn't seem like it was enough. Wasn't enough to keep her in check. That £1,000 was more than many people earned at a good job in Thailand, so I thought that that should be enough for her, and I think it would have been enough for her if I could have kept buying things. If I could have had unlimited money, if I'd have bought a condo and then 6 months later bought a place in Bangkok and then a year later bought a place in Phuket and just kept being able to give her everything that she could possibly ask for, I would have probably died and she would have still been my wife. But as soon as it was clear to her that there wasn't any more money left, apart from my income, that was when I noticed a huge change. She'd convinced me that we didn't need to get married on paper after we did the ceremony, saying that the village ceremony was the one that was important, and I didn't need to have the paperwork for my visa, so it would be better if we just did the village ceremony. At the time, because the ceremony indicates marriage, just like when I got married at a church the first time I was married, that to me was the most important thing, so I agreed with her to do it that way. I didn't think that it was just security for her to make things easier when the time came for her to change. She's not going out and leaving me 24 hours a day, though. She might go out at 6 p.m. and come back at 12, and then she's coming back drunk sometimes. And as someone who didn't drink, I'm not really liking that. Things did start to get worse and worse, though. It was as if she was trying to tell me something that I wasn't catching on to. And one more thing happened. After she got back very late, the following morning she said she had something to tell me, and she was very sorry. She said she got very drunk the night before and she did something with someone else. She was sorry and she didn't mean it, but she wanted to tell me because she loved me, and that's what she said. I was absolutely heartbroken and devastated, and I actually cried when she told me. But if I think about it, she was just trying to tell me as a starting point to make things worse. I didn't know people could be so cruel, I just didn't know that. I didn't even want to talk about everything else that she did, but she told me a few more times about things like that she did, and I was getting more and more upset. She was always really apologetic, always saying sorry, but it was as if I'm not going to stop doing this, so you can take it or not. The thing was, I was taking it. I was just taking it on the chin every single time, because when she was with me, things were good, and I can't force her not to go out because I wanted her to be happy as well. When she realised that I wasn't going to end the relationship, that was when, about 3 months after telling me the first time that she'd done something with someone else, that was when she told me that she'd met someone else and she was going to stay with them. She was sorry, but she didn't want to stay with me anymore. That hit me really hard. I was never expecting that. I thought we were soulmates. But that was when I actually had some kind of epiphany that she'd just been using me all along, just for Bunny. She said she was sorry and she didn't mean to hurt me. She was just trying to be as delicate as possible and not be unkind. But I could tell she'd made her mind up. I could tell that it was over. And I'd lost all my liquid savings to her in just over a year. The car was hers, the motorcycle, that was hers, the house was hers, everything else that I bought was hers. And when I suggested that we sell the car and share the money, she just said that she needed it and she needed to use it. She was sorry, but she said I would be okay. She told me I would be okay and I should be able to find someone else. That's exactly what she said. I went from being oblivious to the reality of the situation I was in, happy, content, and looking forward to enjoying the rest of my life, to being devastated and heartbroken because my wife, that I loved so much, had just ended the relationship and there was nothing I could do about it. In that moment, I didn't even care about the money, but it didn't take me long to understand how stupid I was for wasting all of it. I probably wouldn't have used it for anything anyway, and I would have left it to my son. But the thought of him having a worse time of things because this girl that supposedly loved me had somehow managed to get me to spend all my money? I couldn't believe it when everything started to sink in. When she left, I was there in the condo by myself, thinking that I didn't know what to do. I looked out of the window and sighed, Did I even want to stay in Thailand anymore? I had more than enough income to be able to keep me very well in Thailand at £3,500 a month, but I just felt so empty and hollow. And then I had thoughts back to my wife who passed away, and that was where I broke down and cried like a baby. It was when I thought about my wife, my real wife, who I still wished I was with. It was when I thought about her that I looked outside the window and thought, what am I doing? I don't belong here. I belong back at home. I called my son and told him that I'd have enough in Thailand and I'm going to be going back. He didn't know about how much money I had or anything. He knew I had the house and my pension, and he just said he hopes I was okay. I spent another week in Thailand, give or take. I still had the money in the bank for the visa, which was one thing, so I just withdrew that in cash and changed it into pounds, and I flew back to England and back to my house. Opening the front door, seeing everything exactly like it was when I left it behind, and seeing the big picture above the fireplace of me and my wife, I broke down again. I missed my wife so much, and I still do, and I can't believe I did something so stupid just to try to feel happy again. But I did, and I got over it, and I can still live a good life. I'm not going anywhere anytime soon.